Welcome to Young Money, the advice show for millionaires in the making. It's time for some $1 Million Straight Talk with me, Tracy Bissett. My hands-on experience and formal financial education make me uniquely qualified to coach about all things money. Each week, I'm going to tell you what you need to know now at the beginning of your earning curve. Basic and advanced financial concepts made clear, healthy money habits, and the missteps to avoid, and all the stuff that you can do to set yourself up for a financially fit future. You'll hear from experts, your fellow millionaires in the making, and me. Ready to lace up and start this week's financial fitness training? Let's do it. Welcome to the Young Money Podcast. I'm really excited today. We have two very special guests, Joshua Gray and Genevieve Southerns. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Excellent. So Josh and Genevieve are the co-founders of a local social enterprise named Guelph Box that started as a way to help struggling or closed local businesses get their products into homes during the COVID-19 lockdown through curated weekly boxes of local merchandise. It has since grown into your one local stop for all types of boxes. And Guelph Box gives 5% of its proceeds to local charities and has donated over $30,000 since its inception in late March 2020. Josh is currently studying international business at Carleton University with a major in global financial systems and a minor in German. And Genevieve began her studies at UBC in science and management in September. Both of them grew up in Guelph in families where supporting local was simply the way of life. They're both very make it happen people and truly believe this made all the difference in the startup of this venture at such a young age. It went from an idea to a business in 36 hours, and they haven't looked back since. So welcome again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I'd love it if you can tell the listeners in a little bit of your own words, just a little bit more about you. And I'm going to start with Josh, and then we'll move on to Genevieve.
Yeah. So, you kind of summed up a lot about us in our intros there. That was awesome. Just to refresh, I'm a third-year international business student at Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada. And I took this program mainly due to the language component. So I learned my third language, which was German, and hopes to go abroad. With COVID, that unfortunately didn't happen. But I hope to use that one day and actually get over to Europe and travel. I was scheduled to live in Vienna, which would have been a really cool opportunity. So I'm excited to get there one day. And yeah, really learned. It's honestly been a crazy whirlwind since starting Guelph Box, but I've loved every single moment of it.
Excellent.
And yeah, so as you mentioned as well, I'm a first-year student in science and management at UBC here in Vancouver. I'm hoping to major in neuroscience and not really sure what I'll do with that, but I'm sure I'll end up working in the business world of some kind. I grew up in Guelph as well in a really big family, which I absolutely loved. I'm a very outgoing, extroverted person. So always being surrounded by siblings and just having people over was the way of our house, which was great. And again, just as Josh said, I absolutely love traveling. I took a year off and spent some time abroad in India and different places in Australia and France, and just exploring new places, especially for the food, is my favorite thing to do. So definitely missing that during COVID, but trying to find elements of travel even when we are stuck.
Absolutely. And Josh, how did you guys meet? Did you grow up together and kind of?
So we both grew up in Guelph. We actually, after we met, we realized we had so many friends in common just through Guelph. However, we didn't actually meet until high school, where we shared a class together. And then we had friends who knew each other. And that's how we kind of met in our last year of high school. Well, my last year of high school. She was a grade below me. So
excellent. Now I'm going to start with Genevieve, and then we'll get Josh's take on this. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about your backgrounds and what's led to your success, because starting a social enterprise at your age is really phenomenal. The fact that you care about others, but also that you were able to create this business. So I imagine there's lots of paths and clues to your success over the years. And so what's led to your success, and what would you say are the kind of the top three factors that show up repeatedly or traits that you have?
Absolutely. So being so young, we honestly don't have a huge work background that I can attribute to our success. Both of us have done here and there customer service jobs. I've worked at a camp growing up as well, which I would say has been a huge factor in our success. But for us, we both participated actually in a program offered through the UGDSB called Beyond Borders in grade 12. So we did it in different years, but that program brings together a bunch of grade 12 students for an experiential leadership business training program. And a lot of the elements that you learn in that program are directly transferable to what we're doing now. And so I would say for both of us, that was definitely a huge factor and kind of an incubator for all the things that we now use in our everyday. Another thing too, just in our background that I would say has made us successful is our family environments that we grew up in. And I'm sure this will come up over and over again today, but both of us have grown up in really great families with parents who really emphasize the importance of being good people and also are entrepreneurs. Just coming from entrepreneurial backgrounds, it's always been kind of part of our dinner conversations and part of our lives, hearing about new business ideas and how business works and how you can use that to do good. So I would say that that's been a huge factor in where we are today as well.
Super. Anything you wanted to add, Josh?
That's a great way to sum it up, Genevieve. I think that the importance of, having those conversations just in not necessarily like a professional business manner, but just talking about different ideas, bouncing things off each other. I remember we used to play a game actually growing up where we'd be at like a cafe and my dad would ask us and go, okay, so like, how do you think they actually run this place? So then we sit down and we kind of go, okay, well, this is probably what coffee costs and this is what it actually probably costs, and things like that. And just little moments like that kind of teach you, how to think about things from a different perspective. So that was really helpful. And really that family environment of, help others when you can. And, it's possible to do good and business at the same time.
I love that. And reminds me, like, I'm very much always focused on operations of things. So I love roller coasters. So when I go to amusement park, I'm like constantly analyzing the operations while I'm standing in line waiting my turn. So interesting that you were doing that as like a game.
Oh, I do it all the time. I'll be, and honestly, I'll be anywhere and I'll be like, that, like, I wonder how, they made this, I wonder who they probably contracted. I don't know. Like, it's a fun game to play.
It is. It's a good skill to be curious too. It helps you learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start with Josh. Love to hear what has been your biggest financial challenge or something you wish you'd known earlier in your life when it comes to money.
Yeah. So honestly, I grew up in a very money conscious family. We talked about money and it was a good discussion. Personally, though, I've had to support myself throughout university and that's been a challenge. Just learning how to balance budgets and make sacrifices to pay as you have to pay costs, right? So learning that at a young age was difficult. However, I'm so grateful because I've really learned how to be financially responsible and how to, put things together. It also helps. I'm like a finance major and that's really helped me out just to look at money from a different perspective. Yeah, that would have been nice to know earlier on. It's just like how to evaluate money and what money really means. But that would be my biggest challenge so far.
When you were coming up with sources to pay for school, did you work to raise money? Did you get scholarships, bursaries, anything like that?
Honestly, I had a bit of everything. So I worked different jobs throughout the summer. So I actually worked at a vegetable stand for a couple summers in a row to raise some money. And then on the side, I would cut people's lawns and things like that. So try to just get odd work here and there, as well as I had my parents help me out a little bit. And bursary scholarships. And actually, I remember first year, one of the ways I did it was my grandmother actually gifted me a car. She wasn't unable to drive anymore. So I was able to take her car and I actually would drive people back to Guelph from school because I could charge like $30 a seat. And that actually helped a lot. So I came home like almost every other weekend just because I'd be able to fill up a car both ways, right? So that was a fun little trick I used to do.
Excellent. I like that enterprising idea. Very good. How about you, Genevieve?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question. And honestly, for me, I kept coming back. I know we'll say it over and over about like how important those dinner table conversations are. And I think we can underestimate the impact that like just around the table can have in those conversations. And for me, especially, my dad has been someone who like has led this conversation in our house. And the most important thing I would say that I learned at a young age and that I would say is important to learn at a young age, and I'm very happy that I did, is the importance of starting young. And like, what does it look like to set yourself up for financial success? And I think the idea of like, oh, it's luck and oh, it's this and oh, it's that, like that was really taken away in our family in terms of like, there's actually things that you can do. Setting up a TFSA when you're 18, setting up an RSP, just things that you can do that are really simple, but will set you up for a really strong financial future. And it's stuff like that you basically need to start young in order to maximize. But it's something that I think so many people don't learn about early enough. So I would say I'm very fortunate to have learned that and grow up in a place where that was talked about. But that would be the number one thing that, I just wish more people knew earlier in our lives for sure.
Excellent. And so for everybody listening, TFSA is tax-free savings account and RSP is a registered retirement savings plan. So that's great. And absolutely, that was the genesis for Young Money podcast, is to help people learn so they can start young. So you guys are the living example of that. Now, I'd love to hear more about Guelph Box. And you've mentioned, I read out in the bio kind of how it kind of started, but just love to hear from you in your own words more about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind would be an understatement for sure. So we first started back actually last March. So we're coming up to almost a year now, which is crazy to think about. We started right at the beginning of the COVID shutdowns. Both Genevieve and I were not in Guelph at the time. I was up in Ottawa at school, and Genevieve was living in France at the time on a year off. And because of COVID, we were both brought back home with just, with the mandate of everyone going back. And it was going back home that I was actually listening on the radio about how people over the age of 70 need to stay in and not go out. And so I remember I FaceTimed Genevieve while she was in a layover in Montreal. And I was like, hey, I kind of want to start a website to help support elderly people and help them get groceries. So, someone can just order online and get groceries. So that kind of started the conversation. And then 3 days later, as we're talking with our families, my sister goes, maybe you guys should do the local context. And then somebody said, maybe it should be one box. And then it goes, and it just kind of organically grew. And then within 36 hours, we launched a website. It was a horrible website looking back. Honestly, part of the thing I love about it was the fact that we launched so quickly. And honestly, I think a huge proponent of our success was because of that. But we didn't launch it to start a business. We launched it to help, as we realized that, these small businesses aren't going to have a way to deliver to these people and deliver to people all around Guelph. And so that first week, I actually went around to about 6 different businesses and met with business owners and was like, hey, we're doing this thing. Honestly, we could sell 5, we could sell 20. I got no idea what's going to happen here. Are you interested? And everyone was so shocked. They were like, absolutely. You got to realize we were before curbside pickup was a normal way of doing business. So there really was no other option. So we did that. We launched and we haven't looked back since.
Excellent. And so it's still running even though you guys are at school?
Yes. Yeah. Genevieve, do you want to maybe allude to that?
Yeah, we did think long and hard and kind of figured out how to pivot. Again, one of the things that we've learned over the last year is really the importance of being adaptable. And I think not only as our world is changing and every day it feels like there's new rules and restrictions, especially in those early days, we were constantly pivoting. What if tomorrow we can't operate? Are we considered essential because we're delivering food? You know what I mean? So it was just nonstop adapting. And so I think that really set us up to be able to figure out how to do it from afar. To be honest, a lot of our work can be done from anywhere. And so we do continue to run it on the admin side and the finance side. All of that is still happening with us. And then we're very lucky and fortunate to have partnered with a local bakery in Guelph, Sweet Temptations, and they are doing our packing for us and our day of operations for us, which is super helpful. And they're just the loveliest human beings. So again, people who we met through this back in March, and then now we're actually able to partner with them to be able to keep this running while we're at school, which has been great. But we are doing slightly less boxes. We've just cut back on the number that we're doing in order to allow other people to be able to help us. But we are still running, and we're really excited to be coming up on 1 year, and we have some exciting things planned for the next couple months. So
this message is for all the entrepreneurs and small business owners listening. I am excited to invite you to the Cash Control Bootcamp, a 6-week live online group program to help you understand and plan for your company's cash flow, profitably price your products and services, have those difficult conversations with stakeholders, and so much more. I am leading this live training, so each week you'll learn the lessons and have the opportunity to be coached and get your questions answered by me. There are 2 things I know to be true. Every industry has strong performers who will not only survive, but thrive during this continued global pandemic. And 2, successful companies plan and proactively prepare for challenging times. Enrollment is now open, so head over to the show notes to find out more details and get registered today.
So you've already shared so many great tips, but we know that so many of our listeners are either interested in starting a side hustle, they're thinking perhaps about entrepreneurship in their future as a full-time thing. Love to hear, in your words, some success tips and some missteps to avoid, because you guys have learned by doing. So let's start first with the success tips.
Oh, success tips. I think the number one tip for success, Genevieve, do you actually want to go over this one? I feel like you'd have better success ones.
I'd have better success ones. As if I'm just the successful one. No, I mean, there's so many things, but first of all, I just love that. Like when you're like, people listening want to start their own thing. I'm like, yes, like go for it, do it. And I feel like that's part of, I guess you could turn that into a success tip of like, just start, like go for it and do it. And I think, I mean, as we said, we kind of started this on a whim and haven't looked back since, but definitely don't feel like you need to have everything figured out before you start. We were always said that we were building the airplane as we flew it. And that was so true. Like we had no idea what we were doing at the start. And there's many things that we still don't know what we're doing for, but that doesn't stop us from actually making it happen. And so that would be my number one thing, is just be comfortable not knowing all the answers and go and do it. Like you can start it and you're no more capable tomorrow as you're going to be today in starting it. And the other thing that I would mention too for success would be reach out for help when you need it and find good mentors. This was huge for us and something that we really want to emphasize. Like as much as, yes, we're young and we are the co-founders, like there's no way that we could have done this alone. And so mentors, like business mentors through the community, mentors in terms of vendors who we've spoken to, our parents, just so much community and support around us. And I think that that is critical to any success story. And so find people that are going to champion you, find people who are going to lead you. And yeah, I would say learn from people who've done it before you, because there's so much value in that. So mentorship and get started would be my two like success tips, if you want to call it that. But Josh, I'm sure you have success tips too. We did do this together.
Yeah, no, there's time. I mean, honestly, from a success standpoint, like Genevieve said, be comfortable not only in all the answers, but also be comfortable with making mistakes. They're going to happen. I mean, the amount of, we've made, both Genevieve and I have made huge mistakes, and that's part of business, right? You're going to make mistakes that cost you money, cost you a ton of things, and that's just part of the process. But the beauty of it is once you learn those mistakes, you're so much better off for it. And the other thing is you also have no idea what the problems are, right? I mean, you can look at a problem without starting it and understand a lot of it, but it's not until you're doing it and living it out day to day that you realize there's so many other issues and questions that you never would have asked yourself unless you had started it. Even from like a delivery perspective, right? So an example with us would be, we obviously knew delivery would be a challenge. However, I had no concept of actually how delivery logistics works. I could have thought about it for months and ruminated on it and, devised a plan, but that really wouldn't have helped me out, because in those few months that I was doing things, I was learning so much more, right? So that ability to just have that confidence and realize that, you're not going to have it all from the start. And that's part of the journey is really important to know.
Super. Well, I love that. And you guys have talked so much about your resilience, your ability to be adaptable and pivot. So such great lessons in there. Now, I know those who are listening, they would love to be able to learn from perhaps some of your missteps so they can make different ones. So what can you share on the missteps?
Okay, misstep number one, don't take things personally.
Oh my gosh.
That was a huge learning curve for both Genevieve and I. Genevieve, I think more so, just because you care about that a bit more. It's one of those things that because you pour your heart and soul into this, right? I mean, when Genevieve and I first started this, we were working each 60-hour weeks, if not more, for the first couple of months. Easy. And when you're doing that, you're investing so much of your time, your emotional energy. You're always thinking about it, right? When you're starting a business, that's all you think about. You think about it when you wake up and brush your teeth in the morning. You're thinking about it when you're eating lunch. You're thinking about it when you're with friends. You're thinking about it when you go to bed, And so it's really easy to take things personally. When, if you don't have sales, your sales go down 20% in a week. You go, oh, why? Why did people not like it? Or somebody complains, or there's so many reasons, right? And there's so many reasons for why people complain or don't like your product. But to not take that personally and just to move on from it was a huge learning lesson that we had to learn. And it really not cost us, but it was something that I wish I had known before.
Yeah, it emotionally cost us.
There's a lot of
tears in those first few weeks.
Yeah.
But No, I would agree with that one, Josh. That's a good one. The other one that I would say we've sometimes reflected on is asking for help earlier on. And like Josh was saying, like those first couple months were insane. Like we were working such long days, such long weeks. And I wish that we had hired people earlier. Now we have a great team of people who we work with, like our partnership, and we have marketing help and delivery logistic help. And we're very thankful for those people, but we should have done it right off the get-go. And obviously looking back, you don't know that. We didn't know that it was going to be sustainable growth. We didn't know if it was just like a 3-week little blitz of fun, and like we said, it was really an initiative at the start. And so we didn't think that we needed help. And obviously we had tons of volunteers here and there, but looking back, I'm like, wow, we should have gotten those people on our team earlier and not been afraid to, grow with the business. I think that there's a lot of hesitation at the start. Looking back, I just wish that we kind of leaned into that more and asked for help when we needed it, because it would have saved us probably a lot of those emotional wreckages too, because we were probably just overtired at the same time of trying to do it. So I think, looking back, I would have hired people earlier.
Yeah. It allows you also to, focus on what you want to do. And so for us, honestly, the biggest thing was just clearing our minds of the excess, because there's so much to be done. So hiring on those first couple people were so almost liberating, because you could actually sit down and go, okay, now that those are handled, now I can actually deal with the problems that I A, want to, and B, need to deal with.
Absolutely. And in order to solve bigger strategic issues, you need space and time. And you can't, if you're in the throes of day-to-day running around, you can't necessarily get that time. And so you don't get your best ideas.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Love those missteps, because I think they apply no matter what age you are, but they apply to anybody who's starting a business. So not to take things personally. And you guys have talked about how much time and emotional energy kind of spent on that. And that's absolutely true. Asking for help earlier and hiring earlier, which is another big one in business, making sure you get support around you and not being afraid of that growth that will come. So I know it's hard to know at the beginning if it's going to be a couple week thing or it's going to turn into now you're at your first anniversary, but trying to have faith and rolling with what's happening at the time. So that's wonderful. And
honestly, the growth it was another huge learning curve for us. We grew really quickly, and managing that and trying to realize, okay, should we, make our launch for boxes, add more boxes? Should we keep it at the level it is, right? And not trying to gauge that was really important to learn, as we were afraid to open up, because we're like, well, what if we add another 50 boxes and we don't sell them, right? We've committed to these vendors, this, that, and the other. So
you guys didn't touch on it, but how did you finance this opportunity? Was there times you had to lay out money before you were getting paid? Did that come up?
So Josh does typically most of our finances on this, but honestly, no, we had our business model. I think we kind of set up by accident in a way that we didn't have to finance anything, which was really nice. So most of what we do is pre-sale would be kind of the model. So we will get vendors to commit to wanting to be in a box, and then we'll sell the box. And then we only order from vendors how much we sell, which is beneficial for us, because then obviously we don't have any money on the line, or if we don't sell it, then we're not on the hook for the product. But it's also beneficial because then you don't have wasted product. A lot of what we include in the box are perishable items. So if we'd committed to buying 150 and we only sold 130, then you have those 20 extra items that are just going to waste. So in terms of the financing of it, it's a great business model in that aspect, because we didn't have to put any of our own money up front. I remember the one time that we were a little oh, maybe we should invest in this. It sounds so silly now, but we bought a $70 stamp to be able to stamp our boxes rather than using stickers, because we wanted to be more environmentally friendly. And I remember we both were ooh, $35 as broke students. We were I don't know about this. And now looking back, it's just hilarious, because if we'd stuck with stickers, we would have been paying way more than that by now. And so just those little moments that I can laugh at. But overall, our model is one that we didn't need investors or financiers or to really put a lot on the line, which I definitely enjoyed that, because I didn't feel stressed about it. But that's how we kind of organize the financials day to day.
That's awesome. And obviously you got the key of understanding cash flow. So you made sure you had money in before you had to put it out. So great job.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of money to start with, so we kind of needed that.
Yeah. Sometimes though, people who do have money, they miss this part. because they can do it a different way. So it's great that this is where you ended up, and it was started out of necessity, but it's a great model.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, I'm going to start first with Genevieve, and then we'll hear from Josh. I think I know the answer because of what you guys have already said, but I'd love to hear who inspires you when it comes to financial matters. And it can be somebody that's like famous, a celebrity, maybe an influencer, or it can be somebody in your own life.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right. You can probably guessed it. I would have to give this one to my dad. Definitely my biggest financial inspiration. As I mentioned earlier, he's always made it a priority to teach us about finances from a young age, which I'm super thankful for. And also seeing like how he's been able to do good with money in the world and how he loves to share that with other people. I know it doesn't stop with his own kids, but I know that he's definitely made an effort to make it available to more young people and to be able to chat with people and just offer his time in a financial coaching type way. He's not an official financial planner, but it's something that he has loved from a young age. And so he's learned a lot about it on his own time and then is sharing those resources that he's learned about. So I would say he definitely inspires me. And I feel like he has a way of like taking the taboo out of money. And we always laugh about this, how like money can sometimes just be something people don't want to talk about. But I feel like the way that he approaches it, it's just from a like honest conversation with great advice and very like, it is your money. He doesn't like overbear and be like, this is what you should do. But I just love how open he is of sharing his knowledge with it, and definitely inspires me with how he has financially like organized his life as well. So my mom too, they do it together. I mean, they're a great team, but definitely my dad would be on the forefront of that.
Excellent. And how about you, Josh?
Yeah, for me, I'd honestly have to say my mom. She's someone who has had to support herself from a younger age and, started off with not a lot. And she's really made a cautious effort to always pay off her debt, be financially stable, and be in a good financial position. She started an RSP when she was super young. And from someone who didn't come from that background knowledge and really want to seek that out was really cool to see. And I mean, I've been able to reap the rewards from it. So
excellent. Now, before I let you go, what final pieces of advice or insights would you like to leave the Young Money listeners with? It can be something new, or it can be something that you've already said and you just want to reiterate it to make sure they're taking it in.
Yeah, my number one kind of insight, I would say, is that business can be for good. And I think Guelph Box is just one example of this, but I strongly believe that this is going to be the way of the future, and that these ideas that business and doing good in the world are no longer going to exist separately, but instead we're going to be able to live in a place where those are married into one. And so I would say right from the start, like make that your goal to do good, and the business will come from it. And so yeah, my number one thing, and I feel like I will be preaching it till I die, is that business can be used for good and business can do good itself. It doesn't just need to be the finances that come in and go out back to charities and whatnot, but that you can actually create a business model that every single person wins and that every single person is valued. And yeah, business can be for good would be mine.
Excellent. Josh?
Yeah, I kind of have two smaller ones. The one would be mentorship. It's so important to have people that you can talk to, discuss with, bounce ideas off of, and someone who's kind of knows the ropes. Just to have in your corner is so beneficial. Like we've said before many times today, we wouldn't be where we are today without the people in our life who have been there to guide us. So mentorship is just such a key element. My second thing is more pertaining to like business partnerships, and that's just split up the jobs from the start and like stick clear to those distinctions. Both Genevieve and I were really solid on that front from the front, and we really split up our tasks, and it's really benefited us going forward because we've been able to make decisions a lot faster. We've been able to work together a lot better, and also we've been able to thrive in our areas. So making that distinction is really important.
Excellent. And I know many older business owners who are listening probably right now, they will be thinking that they should have done that earlier in their partnerships. So that's great advice. Before I let you go, what are you guys working on now? And where can listeners go to learn more about you and about Guelph Box?
We have so much going on right now. So currently we have our winter box that is up and ready for delivery coming out soon. And then we're going to have a box to celebrate our 1-year anniversary in March. So keep your eyes open for that. Just continuing to do boxes sort of more on a monthly basis, and lots more like partnerships and working with charities as we continue to grow. So lots going on. And so, yeah, we're excited to see what the next couple months has in store for us.
Yeah, and you can find us just at our website, www.guelphbox.ca, and just our social media handles. It's all pretty simple. It's at Guelph Box. So yeah, or you can even personally connect with us on LinkedIn, send us a message through our website or, on Instagram, things like that. So there's many different ways to reach out, and don't be afraid. We're always open to chatting with the people, hearing ideas and things like that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much to both of you for joining me today. I know that I'm taking away a lot of great points that I'm sure the listeners were frantically taking notes as I was. So loved how much your upbringings and your family situations really led into this pursuit of doing good, but entrepreneurship as well, and how you can do both at the same time. The success tips that you shared were really invaluable, including just start. Don't feel like you need to know everything and have it all figured out. Make sure you get help. Make sure you're looking for mentors and anybody else who can help you, as well as being resilient. And then those missteps to avoid about not taking things personally and hire earlier. And really love what you've created. And I can't wait to see where it goes in the future. So thank you both so much.
Thank you for having us. We really enjoyed it. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's been great.
You are welcome. So there you have it, listeners. Josh Gray and Genevieve Southerns, co-founders of local social enterprise Guelph Box. Until next time, take good care and stay financially fit.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. To all you millionaires in the making out there, if you love this podcast, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts to keep your financial fitness training going. Oh, and leave us a review. And be sure to visit 2S's2T's, financialfitness.com to take your free financial fitness assessment. Find out how financially fit you really are. See you next week, millionaires to be.